Hello and welcome. I am Cyril Stober. Electric power, one of the toughest challenges faced by Nigeria. How to provide adequate, reliable, affordable and safe electricity to meet the needs of Nigeria. Virtually all aspects of development require electricity. And it's been said that if Nigeria can solve its power problems, then it would have taken care of almost half of its developmental needs. Today, I'll be talking to one who is well placed to situate Nigeria's power challenges and how to solve them. James Momoh is a professor of electrical engineering with Howard University in the United States of America. He studied for his master's in electrical engineering in Carnegie Mellon University, Pittsburgh, and PhD at Howard University. This was on a federal government full scholarship in 1976. He is described as an academic of no mean achievements. He is a recipient of several awards, including the U.S. Presidential Award, Best Teacher Award from the American Society for Engineering Education, Excellence Award from the U.S. Senate Energy Committee for developing fast computational tools for addressing Pacific West power system stability problems. He's a recipient of 25 fellowships, honors, and awards, including Fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Fellow of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, Fellow of the Nigeria Academy of Engineering, and Fellow of the Academy of Science. Professor Momoh has published 9 textbooks on modern power systems and over 300 published journals and articles. In May 2018, following Senate confirmation of his nomination by President Muhammadu Buhari, he was inaugurated as Chairman Chief Executive of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC. Now that's the regulatory body of the Nigerian electricity supply industry. On the 26th of November 2020, on attaining the age of 70, he retired in compliance with the provision of the Electric Power Sector Reform Act 2005. Professor James Momoh, welcome to One on One.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Cyril Stober. I am so honored to be in your midst again, in your presence.
Okay, right. There's so much to talk about you and your work and so many things that you've done, but we'll find time before we round off this program to talk about it. But let's look at the main issues now. Electricity, power supply in Nigeria. What's the state of supply, the state of generation, transmission, and distribution?
Thank you very much. The electricity power sector in Nigeria became unbundled from a vertically integrated networks that we used to call it. The government owned the generating company, the transmission company, and the distribution company, all owned by one entity. So it was very hard to manage because they have different problems that they face. So I think at the end of the day, the federal government thought it wise that in order to overcome inefficiency, corruption, inadequate power supply to meet the growing population of Nigeria, safety issues that were not able to be controlled, affordability of electricity to all customer class, then came the idea of unbundling the sector. To unbundle it means let's have as many generating companies so they can produce much needed power that will be able to be transmitted by transmission company that will be owned. Of course, in this case, government will still own up to it. Then we'll have a distribution companies that will distribute it to different customers in different villages, in different towns. And believe me, this is the whole idea, that when we put it together in an unbundled form, then we can begin to ask, how much power do people need? Are they willing to pay for it? That is why the issue of affordability. And are we able to design that power to be stable, to be reliable, and to have a quality value to it, so that we can turn that power on when we need it and it's available. and we pay for it for the actual price. So this is the state in which we want to be. Are we there yet? We are making progress. The progress is that it's becoming too slow for us. The NEC, the Regulatory Commission, has to now provide oversight to put order in place, because there is a disorder. The order is to assume that, look, if we have generating power plants that are not being deployed, let us deploy them, let us fix them, let us have maintenance, and let us make sure there are no generating power trapped, unutilized. And if we don't have enough gas, let us put more gas so that we can power those generating power plants, so that they will now have a full-blown, full-blast generating plants that in different units, in different plants, that will now be able to transfer power from point A to point B to the transmission line. And again, if the transmission line is aged, can you imagine, and if it's obsolete and it's not maintained, the challenge now is we need to do something so that we can carry those electrons to far places in the country. And of course, now we have the challenge of distribution company, that is also the networks are old, they are not properly fixed, they are not metered. So in essence, what you are having is a loss of energy from the source through the value chain. So I don't want to quote numbers. How much do we have in the generating power plant? What do we have in the transmission? What do we have in the distribution company? What I'm saying, there is a misalignment. There's an imbalance between what we even generate and what we transmit. And at the end of the day, we are not able to deliver all of the power that is available to the distribution companies. So we suffer, we lose. We have a lot of losses, what I would call technical losses, as a result of this trap power, lossy network, these distribution companies that are not maintained over the years. And of course, there are commercial challenges. The commercial challenges come in terms of appropriate payment, you call it affordability, so that you pay for the power you use, and you pay appropriately so that the person who invests in the sector will get a little benefit for investing his or her money in this business. I think the challenge we face, this is the problem, you have mentioned it properly. Any developing country, any world, in any part of the world, that wants to be among the top 20 countries, among the top countries in the world, you must get your power right. Because power is going to power the homes, it's going to power the hospital, it's going to power even the station where we are now. It is the only one thing that any country that wants to be in advance its civilization, its development, must get the power right. And I think this country is ready to do that. Under President Buhari, he said, look, we must get this thing right. If we're going to get anything else wrong during his term, he put a lot of money to overcome a lot of subsidies, to overcome a lot of deficiencies, a lot of liquidity issues, in which case the DISCO couldn't pay the price of electricity that what they bought. The gen companies also were not able to sell power at the appropriate price. Somebody came, called the president. He put there a lot of money to say, let us get this thing right. We will provide a facility that will now be used by NBET, and NBET will provide this facility to pay the GENCOs, and the GENCOs now will provide power, and the transmission company of Nigeria will still be maintained by the federal government of Nigeria, and at the end of the day, distribution company, of course, they will be selling power at a different price now. So which will lead to a lot of challenge that we at NEC took it on as long since I joined, and call it the must-do solve problem. We have no choice.
Okay, Professor Momoh, just what you've tried to explain now happens to be one of the biggest issues that the public has with all the aspects of the reform of the power sector. First, it was put across that privatization was it. The thinking was that privately run entities do better than government or state-owned establishments. Somehow, that has not been strictly true in the case of the electricity industry in Nigeria, because there are people today who would say to you, perhaps it was even better in the old days when they had ECN. Even before we went into NEPA and power holding companies and then the unbundling. Three things, let us look at it from that. The provision, the source of Nigeria's power supply, mostly hydro gas. And a lot of people wonder, why have we not developed solar to the level it should be developed? Why are we not investing in wind? And of course, a lot of people don't even want to talk about nuclear because of very obvious reasons. What do you say?
If I were to answer it in one word, we must get the following right as a country. We must get policy right. Policy in designing the different sources of energy, where it must be mandated that X percentage, let's say 30% of power supply must come from renewable energy. That must be a law. I'm just suggesting that now.
Right.
We must get the policy right that the transmission line cannot just be one single line going from A to B. It must be distributive. We may have to redesign the distribution networks. If we don't do that, we're going to continue to have problems. We may also have to make the distribution network smart. Because if we don't do that and we're running it classically the way we've done it before, that means using old method of solving new challenges. No. It means we have to automate even the distribution networks, their substations. So what we have done wrong is the fact that if we don't get the policy right, then there will be problems of regulating. So we must get the policy right, I must get regulation right, and in my thought process, after having worked at NEC, we must get technology right. So the integration, the network of networks, I'm speaking my language now.
Right.
The network of networks of generating power plants, including mixed generation, which include solar energy, wind energy, biomass, all right? All these are very, very, very important for a country. And it is only by definition, a policy statement has to be put in place that we need to embrace all of these sources so that we have a hybrid of energy sources. The reason is very clear. There was a time we got it wrong. We thought we have water, and no, we have coal. So we put all our energy on coal. We ignore all other sources of resources of producing power resources to the country. All of a sudden, we went to hydro. All right. From that time, we also thought hydro is the solution. Then we suddenly got gas. We switched to gas. So what we are saying now is that the mixture of all natural resources that God has given to Nigeria must be utilized maximally. As an optimization person, we have to optimize all these resources within the time of day, within available season in the country, so that at the end of the day, me as a Nigerian can decide whose power do I want to use. Did you see that? Do I want to use hydro? I have a choice. Customer must have a choice, and the scheduling of power resources must also be based on availability and the cost implication. This is what I spent all my life doing, trying to dispatch, trying to develop algorithms that would dispatch all these different resources. And even recently, including the dynamics of solar or wind, because they vary with time, they must all be there. Then, after getting that right, we must, as I said, we cannot afford not to make the grid or the future smart. Because we're still running the grid as if they are dumb wires. The grid or the future are now smart. They have controls that will ask questions. Am I overloaded with electrons? Am I about to break down? Did you see me talking? This is my own. If the network is about to break down, I develop an artificial intelligence technique that will alert the operator that your network is about to break down. Reduce the load, or reconductor your networks, or if possible, reconfigure it. Did you see that? Or bring in new improved network of networks to make this happen. And all the way to the value chain, including the customer. The customer of tomorrow, of today in Nigeria, must be able to make decision. Okay. They would like to reduce the cost of electricity because I have to now get a controller in my backyard, in my house, that says I do not want to pay for power I don't use, even when I can control it. So I need some smart technologies, and I can design it, and I've done it.
All right, let's even look at it from an administrative point of view.
Yes.
Now, there are those who would say, look, the unbundling has...
Oh, by the way, don't forget, I have just told you about policy.
Right.
I've told you about technology, but the regulator must come in to ensure this is done.
Well, we'll come to the regulator, and that's the whole point now. The unbundling has led to the establishment of different kinds of entities, companies that are confusing to the general public. Albeit, all they need to do is, all they want is to get an adequate supply of electricity. But at what point? Now you have the regulator regulates the industry. Then you have the generating companies, the GenCos. Of course, you have the distribution companies, the DISCOs. There's a bulk trading company. Many people do not understand the position of this. A bulk trader. People want electricity at home. And then when there are challenges, when there are problems, they're told no. At one point, the DISCOs say, no, the GenCos don't have enough to put out there. The GenCos said, we have enough. The distribution companies do not have capacity to distribute what we put. Well, of course, the transmission company is there, which still is government-owned, right? But again, there's the question of how much, who is selling to who? And there are questions about the bulk trading company too.
Yeah.
So all this is confusing to the citizen. Can you make sense of it?
Okay. There is a structure put together by the designer of the unbundled power sector in Nigeria. The idea is that we know we're paying less for electricity for the actual price of electricity in the country.
Just like everything else?
Just everything is like a free service. It was a social service at the beginning.
Prices?
Yeah, it was a social service at the beginning.
Okay.
So the government felt, look, if we are going to bring investors to generate power, and they're going to bring in their generating plants, which are manufactured abroad, they want money for that gen set. They want money for all the technology they have used to produce clean gas that will run the future plants. Then the question is, are they going to give it for free? The answer is no. No. So they're going to have to get paid for it. Because we don't have the source, we don't have the end, we don't have any power to use. So the source of power must be guaranteed, must be maintained, must be ensured that they are paid for. So if we don't have money to pay for it, DISCO cannot sell, cannot make up the money that they don't have. So government felt, look, we need to have a bulk trader to it's an interim measure whom we can at least help the Nigerian government, the Nigerian citizens, including myself and yours and you, put that money in NBET, through NBET, like a facility, to pay for the power use by the DISCO through the gen company, especially in the event that they could not pay the money right away. So NBET therefore become a bulk trader that will buy power from the gen through a PPA arrangement. That means an arrangement that is being made for buying and selling, and now sell it to the distribution company. But distribution companies now are at the end point the one who market the power to the customer. So there's a transmission company, of course, in between, who has to wheel the power, evacuate the power to the distribution companies. So the challenge is that if we do not make enough money to pay back to the gen companies through the customer, through the DISCO, then what happened to the deficit? It is that deficit that government put the money in the hands of NBET and say pay off to the GenCo so that we can overcome what I will call deficit. Deficit that may be coming from the tariff, the payment for electricity, which is called the tariff, of what we have charged customer. In most cases, I would say very low, okay? And therefore, there's a deficit. Something costs 20 naira, and you are selling it for 5 naira or 10 naira. There's a 10 naira deficit. Who is going to pay for that? So the arrangement, the facility arrangement made by the government, thanks to the federal government, who saw it with wisdom, that we better have a bulk trader who will be doing the purchase and making sure it's sold, so that at the end of the day, the government is subsidizing for the deficit. Actually, there's a market deficit and there is also a tariff deficit. Market in the sense that if the DISCO themselves are not making good use of the resources to make money, in other words, they have lossy network, there's no meter. That is their own problem, right? Different. So now there are two kinds of losses that we have to make up. So I think the reason for NBET is well assured, but for how long we will do this, because the ultimate aim in the full transition market that we in NEC want to make sure is done by date certain is the time that we will say, I want to buy power from Cyril. I want to buy, because you're a gen company, I don't need NBET in between. I just come to you, you tell me it's going to cost 50,000, and I will just pay you 50,000 or plus or minus. That in Naira. That is the way the market of electricity is done worldwide, and that is where we are still trying to get into in Nigeria, but we're not there yet. But we are making every progress, making every effort to get there where somebody will say, for what I need, can I pay for it? Yes, somebody has gone very quickly according to the market to develop, to design, and to be ready to let go the power to you as a customer. And that's where we are.
Okay.
And the role of NEC is to ensure this, the regulation to ensure, and the order to ensure this is done. In other words, going forward, when we realized that the discos were not paying much to their NBET, so there was a big gap. That is what NEC has been doing over the last 2 years. We have been working so hard to overcome this gap so that the government will not continue to pay for electricity for customers when they should have paid by themselves. So what we have done is to come up with what we call a minimum remittance a disco must pay, and of course, what is the best price of electricity that customers should pay?
Exactly. That is the crux of the matter now. What is the best price? And you've mentioned this, more than once. And the question citizens will ask is, why is it that everything in Nigeria is considered being sold cheap? Oh, it's more expensive. And the question is, what do the citizens have? And the argument over the cost of electricity has been one that's been on and on and on. The general feeling is people are paying far too much for power that's hardly ever available, and now they have to pay more. Is it anything to do with what the distribution companies want? Because on one hand, people say, okay, you privatized, you sold out. And these people bought, but they turned around to say that there wasn't enough money to invest. And the question is, didn't they carry out a study of what they were buying? If you're going to buy something now, wouldn't you look at what it is, as is?
Well, there are many questions input in your question. There are many answers to it also. But I will attempt to unbundle the question.
All right.
The first one I want to suggest is that when you are in a business to buy an unknown goods, you are taking a big risk. The disco took a risk, and they bought the distribution companies that were owned by the old NEPA, from ECN to NEPA. Then after we divide and unbundle them into different disco names in different regions, capturing S number of states, the disco now own those franchise network to them. Whatever you see is what you get. In other words, assessment was done. Some of the networks were weak. Some of them are old. Some are broken. But they stuck with it. Some are lossy. That means there's a lot of loss with their cables because they have been old and not maintained.
And they didn't assess those things.
And the assessment was probably not complete. Okay. It's still ongoing, let's say. Right. Now, so there comes the challenge. They promise that on buying it, they will have experts, foreign experts, who will come and work with them. They will also have good governance, who will make it happen. And they will have creative staff also, which I know we have, all Nigerian people, staff that work in those days. And of course, put all this together with the assumption that there will be improvement at the end of the day. But day one, day two comes and no improvement. So customers start complaining that these discos are not able to meet their obligation. And of course, it's not just their fault. Some of the experts had to leave because they were not getting the money they were promised. Naira devaluation also caused problem of maintaining the actual cost of bringing an expatriate here. You promising X amount of dollars, and when it changes to naira, it has devalued. Then there's a challenge, right? So some of them left. And that hurt many of the discos in a serious sense. And of course, like I said, the governance, how should it be done? And the network condition, the local content that is missing in Nigeria. Because we don't make our own transformers. We don't make our own reclosers. Our fuses are still bought abroad. Can you imagine there was a time ladders were in this country, imported to this country? I know this for a fact. Ladders. So what I'm saying is, when you don't have your own locally made goods and services, you're going to depend on somebody else's engineers and somebody else's profit-making or intention, and took advantage of our country. But we are growing up now. The timing is right when we have now put, thanks to President Buhari again, signed into the order, the so-called local content. Okay. Now, what I'm saying is that we now have opportunity to make a difference. So the disco of today, they've woken up, they are now improving the quality of service, they are now metering, they are ordered to meter their customers, they are now providing automation that will respond to customer complaints in a hurry, automation that will be able to reconfigure their network in a hurry, automation that will be able to measure the amount, the feeder that are outage or they are off or on. This is the new thing. So what I'm basically saying is that I don't want us to keep going backward and saying we are in trouble, but we are out of trouble now. Okay. The question is, how do we finally get to that place where we'll say, we have done it, Nigeria has woken up, providing quality electricity supply to the customer, Nigeria is woken up, maintaining safety, and making it affordable. This is your question.
Right.
And I'm saying to get there, what do we need to do to sustain where we are? We actually need we need to have a commitment, the mindset of workers. The mindset of workers, remember I talk about the will of the people. I talk about policy issue must be right. Also come the mindset. The mindset in terms of what we want for our country. And commitment is another one. The issue of competitiveness must be part of my goal here. If our country staff, scholars like me, if we cannot push competition, I'm in trouble here. If we cannot push commitment, I'm in trouble here. If we cannot push collaboration, I'm in trouble. So the 3 C's must be put in place in order to grow this power sector to the next level.
Right, still on affordability of power. And there was a cap at some point in time that says, tariffs couldn't go up unless certain conditions were met. But Nigerians have witnessed an increase in tariffs. Sometimes it had taken organized labor, demonstrations and protests to have a rethink. Why is this a recurring cycle?
Okay. Thank you very much again. I don't want to overbrag what this class or commission has done under my watch. But we've done something very serious. I went around the country with my distinguished commissioners and staff. We went from village to village, from city to city, and listened to the cry of our customers. The customers said over and over, when the disco presented to them, that unless we increase the tariff, we cannot provide you affordable quality power supply. You must pay for it. Customers, one by one, they stood up. I have to be chased out of the hall, and in some cases, that look, we will not believe you or believe the disco, because we can only pay for the power we see, but when we can see it, the quality of power. So we came back and recognized that what customers said for over and over is that they don't mind, they do not mind, they are not avert for paying for electricity that they use and they can account for. And the challenges were mentioned all over the place. We came back home and sat down for months and worked night and day till we came up with the best method, which we call service-based tariff. The customer going forward, which is what has been announced, and even when the union talked to us, the labor union, when there was an attempt for a strike, I was a member of that committee representing government, where we made it very clear how we came up with this idea of service-based tariff. And it divides customer into different classes. Customer with reliable power, affordable power, with power up to 24 hours, 16 to 20 to 24 hours, were put in one band called Band A. And those who were in Band B were the ones from 16 to 20. And those who were in Band C were 12 to 16, where we said the number of hours that they will have available power uninterrupted, maybe approximately within a month, will either be the minimum of 16 hours, the minimum of 12 hours, the minimum of 20 hours. When we do that, then you're doing well. My dream, if you remember, is that one day in this country, we will have a 24-hour power supply. But what we have done is those who are able to maintain these hours that I said reliably will have to pay a little more.
Professor Momoh, would it surprise you?
And those who have not done it, can you imagine, they will not have to experience increase in power in cost of electricity.
Speaking of this classification, would it surprise you to know that even in those areas that you've classified under Band A of 18 to 22 hours of steady supply, would it surprise you to know that even in those areas there's less than 16%? Because it's so easy to just say, oh, this is a highbrow area, so there are people citizens who would come out and say, look, we live in those areas that have been classified under Band A, but we get less than 16 hours.
Guess
and yet
what?
We pay more.
I told you that is the role of the regulator to overcome this order. So if there is a complaint, if there is any abuse of what the law has said in terms of the order that we put out there, the customer has the obligation to call us, and we have a group, a team of staff within NEC who monitor this kind of challenge and make sure there is compliance. Okay. And if there is no compliance, that means we have to put the DISCO on notice that you are not meeting the obligation, the service level agreement that you sign with the customer, that you sign with the TCN, that you will do this, and this is only way you will be able to collect money from your customer. Failure to do that, then you are going to be holding that customer energy credit.
Okay, Prof, let's move a little bit further and come to this other aspect of it. You're a professional. You've done so much work and received awards on stabilizing power systems. There's something that many Nigerians know. It's called system failure, and it's frequent. Why is that always happening?
Okay. I thank God for many awards. I was very honored by the introduction you gave on me. In the States, brains are tapped. Smart people are tapped by sponsoring agencies. You just don't do what you like. So I got tapped by the Pacific Northwest part of the US, that they are having series of collapses. It's the same collapse we have in Nigeria. The voltages are low, there's a deficit in reactive power control, and the tools to solve this huge network wasn't there. So in Nigeria, we have problem. I'm looking for smart Nigerian engineers, smart scholars. Like when they tap me, they define the problem on scrap paper, plain sheet of paper. Then I was asked to go solve it. There's a need. I was tapped, and I moved very fast, and I solved it. It was tested. It worked. I was honored by the Senate. What did they do? In the Pacific Northwest, they actually gave me the entire city, a key to the city with my family. That honor was great. It also encouraged me to do more. I ended up developing many patents to control, protect national airports all over the country. You didn't hear about that. I did it. I ended up developing an optimization technique that can be used to dispatch the unit, like we discussed before, that is also the fastest. What we are saying is that we can develop that technology here.
Why haven't we done that?
Now, we haven't done it because we have not embraced competition. Remember I told you about competition? We have not embraced commitment. A country that wants to grow, the elite of that country must be committed to change the country. They must be ready to die for the country. This is what I've been saying in the last 2.5 years in Nigeria. Are you ready to die for your country? I am ready. By having less sleep, by working many hours. I have studied that even here in Nigeria. I am now working with 9 Nigerian universities. I brought them together a few months ago. And I told them, you are a Nigerian university at ATBU, at Ahmadu Bello University, at Bayero, at University of Benin, at Futmina, at Futa, at Futo, at University of Lagos, at Akure, Ilorin. Come, here is Nigerian problem. Let's solve it together. We have problem of outages.
Right.
This is what you asked me. I define it. I gave them how to deal with it. They run with it. It has never been done. You ignore your teachers. You ignore your universities. Challenge them, but you cannot challenge somebody to do what you don't know how to do. So in Nepal, we must have a research think tank there.
Okay.
Sorry, in the TCN, for example,
yes.
In the Ministry of Power, for example, in NEC, you must have a think tanker like me. I was not just regulating. You will see me in front of my laptop. I was thinking, how do I take this discussion, this argument in the ballroom, in the NEC? How do I turn it into an abstract mode of thinking so I can come up with the fastest algorithm? Why do I have to sit down for hours? There's power failure here in Nigeria, here in Akpo. On Sunday, I'm running around. I want to know why. When I find the why, what do I do with the why? The why requires developing an algorithm that will be automated so that operator sitting in Akpo don't have to worry about so many false alarms. He'll be able to choose which alarm to be solved, how fast can he solve it, what is the benefit of solving it, but he doesn't have the tool. That's my job.
Okay. So is this part of what the general public says, for instance, that the distribution companies don't like rains? Because as soon as there's a cloud out there, the power goes.
Yes, they don't mind rain. Rain or vegetation growth will cause insulation breakdown on the distribution networks.
We've heard about reptiles causing
but
disruptions.
Now when it rains, the relays or the fuses that are in there, they have 1-2 command. A relay can operate like this. It can open when it's supposed to open. You know I love my work. It can close when it's supposed to close. So when there is a heavy rain on a relay that is meant to open and it closes, and there is no intelligence to disconnect or to put back the relay in the working mode, then there will be an outage. Do you know this is one of the work I'm attacking now? I think my colleague in ATBU, Professor Aliu, I gave him this kind of work where we can now go and put our intelligence, human intelligence, automated intelligence into the substation, like Akpo here. I'm serious, I'm not joking. This is my love, my passion. I love it. Where we can now integrate that technology in the substations all over the country, so that when it rains, they know which relay is off. Relay means something that like a fuse. A relay is like a fuse. It has an input, and it's supposed to energize the wire, and it can open, it can close. As I said, I'll give you the theory of relay already. Right. So basically, where are we in Nigeria? Where are we going to be? When are we going to get there? Should we just stop and build a power university? Should we just stop and create a cadre zone for, let me put it this way, experts who are going to be trained as military soldiers are trained or military people are trained to solve problems under emergency? I think we need that.
Okay.
And I think maybe that's my new life. I cannot come to Nigeria and work so hard and walk away, having defined problems, having seen the problems. I'll be damned, America will say, if I have to return to a classroom without solving this problem. But I need to find those people who are ready to work with me. Those Nigerians, men and women, young and old who can down the old one. I need their knowledge to be transferred to the younger ones.
Okay, Prof, well, you've explained all of this. And one of the big questions here is, are we, well, we'll come to part of it, but let me even bring it up at this point in time. Are we training enough engineers and technicians? When you look at the education system, you see people going in, studying this, and do we have people who sweating it out in these fields, saying that the future depends on this?
Okay. It's a very serious question. And my heart burns. Many meetings I have with the stakeholders in this country. I took an opinion poll. How many of you whose children are studying electric power engineering, maybe one time, out of 50, 100 of them, one person will say, yes, my child. So first of all, we're not encouraging young ones to major, to specialize in the areas of need of this country. All of them want to find a fast profession to get money. But therefore, we need to stop and reflect on the need of the country. Government must announce that the country's need now is in engineering, and that even if you are not majoring up to a Bachelor of Science, everyone who goes to a university must have technology up to the first 2 years. Technology knowledge, skills. That means make it compulsory that whether you are going to be a lawyer tomorrow, I don't care what you're going to be, you should have spent the first year of your university to study technology that this country needs. So I'm suggesting also that we should reward engineers and technologists very well. Reward them when they perform well. Not because I got many degrees, you didn't even know. I got almost 5-6 degrees. But it's not the number of degrees. It's when I use one here, you think I'm only a power engineer. I might change this discussion to artificial intelligence. You'll be surprised. I might change it to communication engineering. You will say, what? So there must be a need that we are willing to pay for and encourage our youngsters to go major in it. And we must also provide new training for our teachers. Because if the professors are not current, they are not going to make a difference in the classroom. And if the professors are only theoretical, they're not going to make a difference. I have to do both. I'm a bridge between mathematicians and engineers. I'm a bridge between technologists and engineers. That is why I can be called a scientist.
Okay.
So I am anxious to grow more people like me.
Okay.
Oh, you think NEC is over for me? NEC is one area. My job is what am I going to do to provide, to do more for my country.
Okay. Prof,
because I've done it abroad.
We started off talking about the sources of energy.
Yes,
and,
yes.
Is it pedestrian when people say Nigeria should have gone far further than it has now in the development of solar energy? Is it pedestrian to say, look, we have all the sunshine here. Why are we not utilizing it to be, in the forefront of solar energy?
Okay, we're behind. We are only trying to catch up. We have the natural resources to develop silicon devices that is made up in developing solar panels. We didn't equip our laboratories. Our physics professors were just left there to do theory. The physics people, the electric power people, they need to work together so that we can do what? Build from scratch, take advantage of soil in different parts of the country. In my village, Igara, one day I woke up, I saw silica. Silicate, and I took it to Nasini laboratory. They said, wow, you can put your house down and you may see a lot of solid state material. So that means we have the raw materials, but we don't know how to take advantage of it. But now is the timing for government to choose about 6 centers of excellence. I'm just suggesting that. I've written many blueprints for this country. One of them is National Science Foundation which I led in America. I brought it here so that we can use that thinking to choose schools in 6 geographical areas of Nigeria and ask them that we want you to build a national center of excellence in material science. There we can begin to do from physics to the materials. We choose the best material. Now we're even in graphene in my university. We are no longer silicon. We go for graphene, and from there you get new product, and from new product you get new microphone. You are even talking about nanotechnology materials. So we begin to do all this. Oh, my country, when are we going to get there? So I'm saying you need to equip the young professors. You need to retain the older professors to mentor the young ones, and let them compete. Remember the word C. I competed. We are only 2 that got presidential award in America. In 1987 when I was awarded. You think it's a joke? They saw my work. They saw what I could do. Thank God and thank my father, my parents, who gave me a very good beginning how to compete.
Okay. We'll return to that shortly. But one quick thing is, I'd just like to ask you this, and it may sound an overflogged issue. Sometimes you hear the TCN comes up with reports that, oh, Nigeria has attained 5,000 plus megawatts of electricity, and this shows we're moving. And then someone says, hang on a moment, there are cities in Africa, not outside Africa. There are cities in Africa who are talking about 7,000. And we're talking about Nigeria with 200 million.
We're in trouble.
Talking about 5,000 plus.
I did a study quickly, and I still think my country is in trouble. We're talking about 5,000 plus for 200 million people. It's a joke.
Right.
If we divide that among 200 million people, we may not have enough power to warm our tea. I'm telling you, if everybody has to take a fraction of that available power in time T at a very time on one time, I say if we divide it among ourselves, you will not be able to warm your tea. Nigeria keep on growing in population, but we are not growing our energy supply in correspondingly with the population growth. And that is important. The little small change that we saw, the little small incremental change that TCN talk about, maybe they are only telling you for this one day, Disco took more power, maybe more customers. Maybe the day Green Eagles were winning, we were winning our match. We are watching TV that day. The low suddenly jump up, and we think we have done more. Please cut it off.
Professor Momoh,
because we have no business, we have no industry.
Okay.
Everywhere Momoh, in the village, I should see industry in Nigeria.
This is a fundamental question. Would you say that NEC and, of course, the Reform Act, would you say that this has led to an improvement in the system and that this is the way to go?
Well, NEC doesn't come with only one answer to the problem. Okay. We look at many, many options. Right. In the reform.
Okay.
We made something on the ground when we took over the job in 2017-18 when I joined, and we saw what was not working. Okay. And we immediately started making changes. The changes must be sustained. In my handover to the vice chair, I told him, these are the things I've discovered, and I'm not hiding it. We must sustain this change, and we must make a difference.
Right.
And in doing that, what I'm really saying is very simple. We cannot say it has to be done this way. A young man or an older man come from another world, come to work here in Nigeria in NEC. Please listen to him or her, because he may be coming with some brilliant ideas.
All right.
Give him a chance to succeed.
Prof, in the last few minutes of this program, let's turn the searchlight or turn the focus to Professor James Momoh. Why electrical engineering? Why engineering of all the things? Why? What happened? Okay. We know from the masters upwards, what was before the masters?
They were hiding it from you. It's also a BS electrical engineering.
Right.
Where in those days, okay, I was a little I was talented. I didn't really know what I wanted in the university.
Right. No,
I wanted to be a mathematician.
Okay, before the university, here was a kid going to school.
Okay, a kid going to school. One day he was born.
Did you say, look, I'd like to study?
One day he was born. His mother took him from the big man in my hometown, my father, who is a big Islamic scholar. He was praying in the mosque one day, and he forgot that the youngest wife, my mother, would wrap him in the back and gave it to his uncle in Lagos. So I ended up in Lagos at the age of 4. Can you imagine? And when I arrived in Lagos, I saw light. And then my uncle raised me up and gave me a chance to go to school. And the first day in school, they say, you are too smart for this class. They put me in second class. Before I know it, I finished in a hurry. Before I know it, I was going to go to King's College. I do my common entrance. I put common entrance to Yaba Tech. I put it to King's College. But I felt maybe at the interview I was probably too tall. I don't know what I did wrong. They didn't select me. Maybe I'm too dark. Anyway, one day I find myself in America with a scholarship. I have done so well. I was top in my class. Before I know it, I got my BS top of my class. I made first class in my equivalent in my school. But what did I do well? In 3 years, I finished the degree that usually take 5 years when I went to school. But around that time, I was not sure whether I want to be pure electrical. I was doing communication, engineering. I want to do mathematics. They told me just graduate and go do something else. From there, I went to Carnegie Mellon University. And there I did so well. And I work at Bell Labs, a very national lab. I work at Westinghouse. Before I know it, I am confused. I don't know what to do in my life. I ended up saying to my teacher, sir, I don't know what I want. He said, go and get another master in another field at University of Penn. So I got another master's degree in the area of system and applied mathematics. Then one day, I'm still confused. A professor gave me a chance. He said, come and help solve a problem in applied mathematics to power. That is how I ended up in power. I am so successful, I feel like I did the right thing.
So we might as well say that little boy, who saw the light was attracted to the light, and today his life is stabilizing and making sure that that light goes around.
Do you know, last 2 weeks, I went around the country to about 4 discos. And I went to Eco Disco. It was like, I don't know if I call it Mecca, if I call it Jerusalem, I don't know how you will take it. Okay. But when I got there, I looked down, I prayed. Because I remember the first opportunity I had in this country, it was in that building. They asked me to define what is Ohm's law. I opened my mouth. I defined it as a young 11, 12-year-old boy.
Okay.
And that day, they said they gave me scholarship to continue my course. This is how that young boy felt. I was called to be an electric power engineer. I was called to be an engineer. And so in coming to Nigeria, I have a reason. I must give back to my country.
Okay. Professor James Momoh, it's been so interesting talking to you.
Thank you.
And there's a lot. Even as you try to explain to us the intricacies and that web. And, well, as we all know, power, electricity, that kind is still not a tangible thing. It's not something you can just keep, generate and store it and use when you want to. But we're looking forward to your putting more into solving the power challenges that Nigeria faces today. We'd like to thank you for coming on this program. Thank you so very much. And I'm looking forward to asking you to come again sometime so we can talk more about electricity and all of that.
Thank you so much for giving me this privilege and the opportunity to express myself and to let young ones know that if I have to do it all over again, I'll do the same thing.
Right.
And for you inviting me, I thank you. And last, I want to thank the President of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, for giving this young boy who left a village to Lagos to the US to come back home to come and serve. I have done my stewardship now. I will do other things that the president will ask me to do.
Okay.
I am promoting STEM.
Okay.
I'm promoting capacity building.
Right.
I'm going to promote research and development. And hopefully I'll come and tell you more about that next time you invite me.
All right. So we wish you well in your endeavors.
Thank you.
And that's our program today. We thank you for watching. Next week we'll be back with One on One. I am Cyril Stober. Continue to stay safe.